he's a bit of a regular here on the Wes Buck Show. He's someone we like to talk to. He's someone we like to hear from. But we're bringing him in as a pinch hitter. Mike's out of office or Murder Tundra's out of pocket or whatever, and I bring Lyle in as a the word fill-in isn't so nice, but I bring him in to be to help fill a spot on the show, and he does a fantastic job of it. He's a co-host, right? But I tell you what, we've been waiting diligently. We've been patient. We've been waiting because I knew there would be a day that we brought this young man on the show to celebrate his first ever victory in professional drag racing competition. Ladies and gentlemen, the man of the hour, the legend himself, I think drag racing's favorite son. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Lyle Barnett. Woo! Lyle, what's up, dude? Thank you so much for taking the time, dude. I think Tom Bogner is in the comments here from Lucas Oil, a dear friend of the show, and he said you made his weekend, and I think I can
made a lot of weekends. Man.
I think Tom's speaking for the whole racing community, Lyle. For those that don't know, I guess if you're living under a rock or you don't have a connection to the World Wide Web, maybe you're not aware that Lyle Barnett drove his Elite Motorsports MacFab sponsored late model Camaro, the car that Erica Enders made famous, setting the NHRA Pro Mod speed record at 261 plus, drove that hot rod to the winner's circle, a twin turbocharged Pro Mod, a combination that people have pretty much left to die, took that thing to the winner's circle and scored his first ever win in E3 Sparkplug's NHRA Pro Modified Drag Racing competition. Congratulations, Lyle, man. I mean, can you even believe this?
No, thank you guys. I've gotten numerous calls and texts and messages and you name it, and I haven't gotten to all of them yet. I will, but it's the past 48 hours really have been somewhat of a blur. I was telling my dad the other night, I was in my hotel room. We went out to dinner. We leave the track, we go to dinner. We're going to go to the bar, right? We're going to party and we're going to hang out. And I was sitting at dinner and I was just like, dude, I'm going back to the room and I'm going to bed.
Dude, JT is so disappointed in you right now.
I am.
Oh, yeah.
He'll coach you up on that.
Yeah, we'll get this
I don't know
worked
where
out.
my Uber Eats driver is, but the White Claws haven't gotten here yet, by the way.
Oh, man.
But
you need a tuner like me for after the run.
Yeah, I agree.
I will get your program. I will get your program back on track.
Yeah. But I turned over in the bed several times throughout the night. Just like, I was like, man, I don't really know if I want to turn over and look on the nightstand, because if it's not there, I'm going to be really disappointed. And I eased over my shoulder, I was like, oh, whew, it wasn't a dream. We really just did that. But dude, I mean, I was speechless at the top end of the track. I didn't really know.
You weren't speechless. I told Wes the
Mike,
first thing. I was Mike, Lyle crushed the top end interview. I mean, that was awesome. Even Tom Bogner commented in here, your speech was so compelling. And it was, man. The emotion was there, but you were composed like you had done this 100 times. I was so impressed with that.
Yeah, I went through the, in the turbo car, which obviously I counted, that was like 16 or 18 runs in the car that I had made ever. We went to Darlington to test. I made 2 runs, which were aborted. It started raining, completely kiboshed the test session. So we loaded everything in the trailer, wet as you know what. Johnny drives it across the country. We unload in Texas. The first 4 runs there, we abort, figured out what our issue was, made some pretty decent runs, but I hadn't been to the finish line until we were going up for Q1. I went 1,000 foot and clicked it off. So Q1, Justin's like, well, out the back door you go. Shook the first 2 runs in qualifying. We're sitting in the 16 spot. Everybody's kind of down. We found some issues, and I went up for Q3 and went 384 with 8. Put us 11th, I think, and by the time the session was over, we were 12th. In Q4, I went 84 with a 0. Set the speed or top speed of the meet, went 252 and some change. Felt good going into race day. We weren't the top half, but we weren't on the bump. And felt like we had something that we just needed a little luck here and there, and we could go a few rounds. And obviously a little luck turned into a winner's circle. But when I let go of the button in the final, And it's something I had to get used to. Like, they jump way out. You know, we go one flat 990 to the 60 foot. Anybody else in the class is going, if they're on a good rip, they go 970 to 960 or faster. So they jump out a car, you know, and from the driver's seat, you're like, geez, man, you know, and the first time I ran somebody side by side and we both made a good lick, they jump way out, you know, and I'm like, what the, oh my God, you know, that thing, the boots ramp comes in and the thing takes off and it passes them. You know, when I come by them at 1,000 feet, we're moving on pretty good. And I knew when I got to 1,000 feet that it was going to be close, but I felt like I had him. And sure enough, you know, at Texas, just past the finish line, there's 2 wind lights on each wall. They're little blue lights. And dude, I'd already gotten the shoot out because I may not have found it otherwise. And when my light came on, I lost it. Like, I was bawling in the shutdown. You know, the car's hopping around and doing its thing because it just went 252. But dude, when I turned off the racetrack, I could barely see, you know, and I come to a stop there. And if you've ever, any of you watching have ever been at a national event, when you come to a stop, it's like a bunch of minions just,
yeah, they're on,
you know, they're shoots up, doors open, shoving stuff in the car, you know, and my head is just on the steering wheel, you know, and I'm just limp pretty much, you know, and Amanda's comes over to the car and I get out and I keep my sunglasses in a case Velcroed to the transmission tunnel and I get them out. She's like, oh no, Lyle, you put those up. And I'm like, not today, you know, so I slid them on and took my time and walked to the back of the car. And Amanda's like, all right, Lyle, 8 seconds and we're live. And I'm like, God, I got to get it together.
Dude, well, you did it though.
Yeah.
I mean, you pulled the hat on and I thought, to Mike's point, like, you looked so natural in that moment. And I think it was just like, you've waited your whole life to climb out of a car and be handed a Wally. And I looked at your performance, you know, obviously your story, we talked earlier, the triumph and the tragedy that you've experienced at South Georgia Motorsports Park in drag racing in general. It's the fact that you're here with us today doing anything, talking, I feel is a victory. It's a miracle that you're alive. But to think about 5 years ago being on fire in Valdosta, you know, and fighting for your life, and here you are winning at the highest level of drag racing, Lyle. It's and I want to talk about specifically your performance, because you got to tip your hat to Justin Elks and everybody at Modern Racing, Johnny Drama, Anthony, Mike Earl, everybody involved with that. Ben, obviously the whole Elite Motorsports gang for their support and everything that they do. The Hairston family. I mean, I understand that there is a ton of praise to go around, Lyle. And I know you're the kind of guy that loves to point the finger at other people in a positive way. Like, hey, it wasn't me, it's them, it's all of them. But look at your lights here, buddy. First round, 034. Second round, 036. In the third round against J.R. Gray, who appeared to have the car to beat, you go 007. And I say that because you clearly knew you were going to have to do that. You knew in that semifinal round that it was on Lyle. Like, hey, this car's helped me today, and this car's doing its part, right? But in this moment, when these guys seemingly have the field covered by, like, I don't know, a 10th or whatever, I mean, you were going to have to make the difference, and you did. It's such a special thing. When the moment comes and it's you that has to make the difference, you did it. You did it again in the final round against Justin Bond. Obviously not like a glamour light, but much better than your opponent and what you needed to win. You go 040 in the final. Car's deadly consistent all day. I think you guys could have entered Top Sportsman if you wanted. I mean, what do you make of, I mean, how proud of you or of yourself are you of that performance? And how do you put that together, Lyle? How do you put, I mean, it's not like you've had the season, in my opinion, that would give you the confidence to perform like that in Texas. How did you put that together?
Man, you know, I've always, I guess, prided myself in being able to shine when the odds are stacked against me. I've always been good leaving the starting line, and that dates back to when I first started drag racing, you know, back when we were bracket racing in 7.0 index, and when I first started in X275. I mean, we've talked about this before on this very show. I know I can count on my hands and tell you each time I've been beat on a hole shot. And they never leave me. You know, one of the most painful ones to this day, and like lights out 4, Ron Rhodes beat me on a hole shot in the semifinal of the Leaf Spring Shootout, and I haven't forgotten it. In 2018, Matt Bell beat me on a hole shot in Memphis, Tennessee in LDR, and I haven't forgotten it. And earlier this year, J.R. Gray beat me on a hole shot at the Gator Nationals And I won't forget. I'll never forget it. And I remember those things, and this weekend, I told Justin and I have had this conversation. I told the guys over the weekend, I said, if I can get a car that can compete, I'll find a way to win. And, I haven't cut as good of lights in that thing as I really want to. And I've shimmed, like I tune my trans brake button like Justin else tunes the Motec. Like I've got shims, I've got things that I do trying to pick it up this weekend. I just couldn't find it. But I did take a pretty aggressive swing going into the semifinal against JR, and Anthony Lum told me in the trailer, he said, I need 4 numbers better than him from you speaking to me, and I'm like, dude,
wow.
I said, look, you guys give me the best package that you can put in that car going to the starting line. And if I red light, I'm sorry, but I'm going straight up after it. Like I've got different ways that I position my hand. And I mean, I've got all these things that I've figured out over the years in ways if I really need to go after it and know there's a good possibility I'm going to red light, I'll get everything I can get. And 007 was actually a little faster than I was figuring I could be a low teen at best and hoping he was going to go 50. I was 007 and I think he went 40 something. And we got back to the trailer and Anthony's like, well, you gave me 4 numbers, and in the final, Justin Bond and I had a little staging deal up there and we figure I was probably somewhere in the low 30s to high 20s range. But by the time, we both were in and the lights dropped, that thing was cooking pretty good. And it's also the reason it slowed. We had 30 minutes to turn the car around and everything was still heat soaked, and so it was, and I needed another 15 to 20 minutes of cool down time to really get that thing right. But man, I don't know. I feel I'm as calm and as comfortable when I turn the top bulb on in a race car as I am sitting here talking to you guys. Like I know everything that's going on. I can tell Justin what the oil pressure was when I turned the top bulb on. I know how much brake pressure I had when I jammed the brake pedal down to grab the trans brake, which, we preset a brake pressure so that I can bump in consistently every time. But I know how much I started with, and then everything happens kind of naturally from there. I try to roll in an extra few inches so that I only have to bump once. I don't know, man. It's just kind of a natural thing for me to go up there and just be completely calm and aware of what's going on. And I learned some things this weekend driving a turbo car, that, there's 7 from the time I turn the bottom bulb on, there's 7 seconds until my opponent has to be in, and they're there 7 seconds. They can do with them what they want. I was upset. But as just speaking, matter of fact, Justin Bond staged the car within the rules and did nothing illegal. I may not have liked it, but when he's second in the points and looking and hunting a championship, you got to do what you got to do. And I understand that, and he did what he thought he needed to do, whether he was counting Mississippi's in his head or what. The most important part he just didn't quite get, and fortunately for me, he didn't, and by 9 inches or 2/1000ths at the stripe, I nabbed the first one right here.
I would never in my life want to make light of anybody who's won, the act of winning an NHRA Pro Mod race, right? I mean, I have been saying for years, as have many others, that this is the final frontier for fast door slammer drag racing. That's no discredit to all these other sanctions and series that are fantastic. But I mean, you can ask guys like yourself, Stevie Fast Jackson, any of the guys that have come from other walks of life and dived into competition in NHRA Pro Mod, the E3 Sparkplugs NHRA Pro Mod division. It's unlike racing anywhere else. This is hard knocks racing. And again, I'm not trying, that's not a shot. It's a fact. This is the hardest racing that exists. And like I said, I don't want to discredit any past performances, but I do find it interesting. If you go through the losing reaction times in the first round and the second round, I mean, there are more 020s and 0-teens and 010. I mean, Brandon Snyder lost with an 010 light, right? Jeff Jones, 019, obviously he was, spinning in circles. Jose Gonzalez seemingly goes 020 or better every single time he's in the car. I mean, what do you make of the level of competition? Let's table the performance of these various combinations. Let's table all the drama that exists around turbos and prochargers and blowers and nitrous, and we can make a song about it. Let's table that. What do you make of the people doing this? Because I think the best drivers that Pro Mod has ever seen are here right now.
I agree. Between myself, Jose is unreal. I mean, for somebody that flies home between rounds of qualifying and then flies back to the racetrack and just hops out, comes running into the staging lanes, hops in his car and did this at Gainesville, hadn't been in the car in like 8 months, is literally shows up at the last minute and hops in the car and is like 18 leaving the starting line. Like, what? But that's how you have to be. Like, there's been some of your top-notch drivers that I consider have had a kind of an off year, leaving the starting line. Stevie is a good friend of mine. He is, back-to-back champion, but all in all, I think he's had a less than average year leaving the starting line, and it's unfortunately for him, it's bit him some this year. He lost to Jeff Jones on a whole shot in the first round. But to be good, or actually, we talked about this earlier in the year too. You can't be good; you have to be great. And to be great, you have to be better than 30. Period. Like, I don't consider my performance on Sunday great. I think it was good, but in the semifinal, that was a pretty, I guess that would be great going 007 when I thought I needed it, but I wasn't happy with myself leaving the starting line. Now we got it. We got what we needed to do and got the job done. But like, that doesn't usually 30, what was it? 34, 32, 36, 40 in the final. That usually doesn't get it done.
Right. I mean, there were odd circumstances there in the final. Not necessarily odd, but to your point, this is cutthroat drag racing. There's no doubt about it. Guys are going to do whatever they've got to do to try to eke by, right? It's close. What do you make of, there's been lots of talk to us a little bit about, while we have time, the transition from the Pro Charger car, which, had the class by the throat throughout all of 2020 and into 2021. Obviously a dominant combination. Can you take us through a little bit, like the decision to go back to the turbo combination? Because myself included, and along with a lot of other hardcore race fans and industry members, I didn't know that we would ever see those cars back in the mix. I hoped we would. I think the class is better with flat hoods and some turbo cars. I don't want to see all flat hoods and turbo cars, but I do think it adds to the excitement. Can you take us through that decision, and I guess like how you feel here and now that you've put one in the winner's circle?
Yeah. We obviously started the year with the Pro Charger car. I've ran the majority of this year in a Pro Charge car. We ran really good early on. And then the NHRA, and the NHRA gets bashed a lot for their decision making on the rules package and Pro Modified in particular. And in their defense, they're just doing what they have to do to try and not run the rest of the racers out of the class. They have to somehow they have to maintain parity, and most of the time we don't always agree with that. But we stuck with the Pro Charge combination as long as we could. Proline's got this new MH6 Hemi out that makes just tons of power. With all the things that have gone on with COVID and, getting parts and stuff is a problem. And, we just didn't have the opportunity to obtain the parts to build an engine quite like that. We made good power, but that engine's worth a lot, and so after Charlotte, we qualified down at the bottom 15 or 16 and went out first round. Jake Harrison, who's head of the engine department there at Elite Performance, his dad, Jim, and Jake's brother, Clint, offered up this twin turbo car. Obviously I'm a fan of the turbo stuff. It's kind of my passion. It's really all I've driven for the past 5 or 6 years. But when it was my time to come into Pro Modified, I didn't care what I was driving. Right. I just wanted to get in whatever was available. And when they offered it up, and Justin, myself, and Anthony and the rest of the guys talked, we thought it was a good option. And Jake, Jim, and Clint just offered their car up. It's the same car, we've talked about it, that Erica set the speed record in a year and a half ago, and it hasn't been ran since then. It got fixed after the fire. We fixed it here at Modern. Got it dynoed, put 94 millimeter turbos on it so that they could go run Midwest Pro Mod. And that was just a plan for it. So it got sent back here. We converted it back into NHRA trim in like a week, and we were ready to go. But, it was really just I don't want to say a shot in the dark, but a shot in the dark for us just to try to salvage the rest of the season and see if we couldn't go a couple rounds. Honestly, going to Texas or for the fall nationals, it was really just to get our feet wet type deal, get everybody's head wrapped back around the turbo combination. Let me get some passes in the car and kind of get comfortable in it, and then look to try and really perform well at Bristol. And then obviously in Las Vegas, where the air quality and out there really kind of favors the turbo combination. So, it really was a by the seat of the pants one night over dinner and a beer. Hey man, why don't you go try the turbo deal? And we're like, sure. So it just kind of happened. It wasn't something that was in this long plan that we had been planning over the summer. Like literally at dinner, Sunday night at Charlotte, this decision was made. So it really wasn't something we were ready for, and you got to have a little bit of luck out here. You're never going to win every race based purely on performance. And we did have a couple lucky breaks this weekend, and it worked out for us. And to bring the turbo car out for the first time and go straight to the winner's circle, I hope that there are some guys out there with turbo cars that have been kind of iffy about coming back, that gives them some incentive to load their stuff up and maybe come join us before the end of the year, or at least make plans going into 2022 to come join us. Cause I do think that it's good to have that diversity there. You talked about it the other night when we pulled up in the staging lanes for the semifinal, there was a representative from every power adder left,
I think it's magic.
Cool.
That to me, it's good guys, bad guys. I've said this before. It's baby faces and heels. It's black hats and white hats. I don't mean to make all these pro wrestling references. I really don't. But let's be honest. That's a multi-billion-dollar organization, the WWE. They can't be all wrong. So there are things that we can learn from over there, and that's something that I see truly unique to pro mod drag racing. If you look at pro stock, all the cars are the same. Even the Fords have Chevy engines in them. You know what I'm saying? You look at the same can be said for Top Fuel and Funny Car. All this stuff's extremely similar. And even the bodies are pretty similar, and they all have Hemis in them, whether they're a Ford or a Chevy or whatever. So it's the unique part of pro mod, and what I really truly represents lightning in a bottle, is all these different combinations and the people that wheel them. It's an incredible thing, and we need to lean into it instead of lean away from it. I think everybody at the beginning of the season thought that Pro Mod, the E3 Sparkplugs NHRA Pro Mod series, was going to be nothing but late model Pro Charged Camaros pretty quickly. Right. But to your point, Lyle, I'm really hoping this inspires some guys to give it a shot. I'm hoping this brings some cars that have been sitting on Pro Jacks for a few months or maybe a year. Maybe it entices them to come back out and try their hand at it. One of the other big takeaways for me, and I understand we had some odd conditions. It was unseasonably warm down here in Texas this time of year. It's always generally pretty nice, which is why I moved here. But it was definitely a little hot and bothered out at the racetrack this past weekend. But I really liked seeing all these mid 580s, right? And that for me, if there's a big takeaway from the weekend, that's what we need more of. My argument for pro modifieds, like staying power and what we can do to preserve the class and improve its longevity and get more cars involved. I don't think we can have them run in 560s. I know it's cool, and there's a ton of people in the comments right now talking about no rules, and we want to see these things run in 530s and 40s. And listen, I'm not saying that couldn't happen or whatever. That wouldn't be cool, but realistically speaking, if you want to keep pro mod being pro mod as we've known it for the last 10 years, we've got to slow these cars down. And seeing these cars all packed together in that 580 range is very exciting. It's funny because now I think all the attention turns to nitrous cars going, hey, y'all are running mid 570s and everybody else is running mid 80s, low 80s. What's up? And that stuff's always going to exist. I think parity is a bit of an illusion. I don't know that it ever is really going to exist. There's so many factors at play that it's very difficult to make it 100% fair and even for everybody. But how much, what do you think the elapsed time, the numbers showing up on the scoreboards, how much does that impact the class? Do you agree that the cars get too fast and it just weeds people out rapidly, or do you think they should go faster?
Yeah, no, I definitely don't think we should go any faster. We're already going to tracks that are, I guess, what most would consider short, and these things weigh 20, I would say on average, they're somewhere in the 2,700 pound range, plus or minus 50 to 100 pounds or whatever. But there can be a handful to get stopped, and especially if you have a chute malfunction, right? So if you say we're going to go run 550s or 540s, and in the turbo car for me to do that, the thing's got to go to 70, and there's some of these tracks that it's hairy enough, and you have one chute come out, or especially no chutes come out, and you got a tore up race car, period. It's going in the sand. Like there's no way around it. You saw Greg Anderson have a chute malfunction this weekend going 210 or a little less and still came off the track running pretty hot. If I have a chute malfunction, even at 250, I'm going in the sandbox, So yeah, I think the speed numbers you're seeing, Janice and JR Gray went 249 in the Roots car. Ricky's going 250, 251 in the nitrous car. When we get our stuff together, we'll be going more like 255. And I think the mile per hour mixed with some of these elapsed times you're seeing are keeping some of these guys away that would come and play if they were more of a good shot down the racetrack was kind of what we run on average. If number one would have been in the bottom 80s and the class would have stretched down up into the 90s, I think it's more appealing to bring in some regional racers. Your core group's going to go no matter what. When we go to Vegas, the top 10 in points are going to be there, but we're not going to pull in any of those regional guys that would come in that on a good lick could go a bottom 90 or a high 80, which is respectable if the front runners in the class aren't going mid to bottom 70s. There's been talk about this, about should we slow it down? What do we have to do? And it all comes back to what financial investment it takes to do what needs to be done to create the parity, and that's been an issue. We've had meeting after meeting about it. There's been rule changes this year that have cost teams well over 150 grand. And, and you start talking about rule changes like that, it scares people away because they go in one direction. If they don't have these huge or maybe even unlimited budgets, if you're not the Bahrain 1 team, there's nothing against those guys, but if you're not that team that has all these resources and you go in one direction to build your combination, and then somebody with the same combination who has been testing or has been running it for months on end goes out and hits a home run, they can't make a rule change that only affects Jose Gonzalez. They make a rule change that affects the Pro Charger combination across the board. Well, the guy that was running 590s is now running 6.0 or 6.10 or whatever to back Jose up to run 680s, or 580s, so it's a rock and a hard place.
It's very tough. I never ever, like Lonnie Grimm and all these guys, John Sears, all these people that I've made friends with that are involved in making rules. Like, I question their sanity. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, you just should do anything else. Like, I love them to death, but like, man, it's such a difficult position. When you look at a couple of kind of closing questions for you, Lyle, one, how set up are you guys to win out? I mean, like, you got to feel good right now. I mean, did you guys have a team meeting and say, hey, listen, this may be our moment? Like, we're headed into 2 tracks that are, historically pretty favorable for turbo cars, right? We're going to Bristol this weekend, then headed out to Vegas. These are 2 tracks. I mean, specifically Vegas. I mean, it's 5,000 feet out there of adjusted altitude. I mean, do you guys feel like you're poised to really throw a wrench in the gears?
Yeah. We talked about it in the trailer after the final on Sunday. We are in a position right now to really shake it up at the top of the points leaderboard. And I've got a chance to make my way into the top 5 and end the season on a high note. You kind of try to stay humble about it a little bit because you go up there with your chest stuck out and you roll up there for first round and somebody cuts your head off, there at the starting line, and you lose first round because you go up there cocky, and it doesn't look too good. But yeah, I mean, I think with the way we ran over the weekend, we didn't hurt anything. We ran the car good. We ran the car hard. We think we've got some left, but like you said, we're going into these tracks that traditionally favor the turbo combination. So yeah, we feel good, and we feel a little bit confident that we're going to have what it takes to be there on Sunday and hoist another Wally. I would love to win them all. I was telling Justin and Anthony, I'm hungry, man. I want it so bad. They say there's nothing like winning your first one, but they all feel pretty good. And I want to know what it feels like to win the second one. And I definitely want to know what it feels like to win the third one. If we can back it in 2021, I think going into 2022, we'll have a pretty big target on our back, so that's the plan. We're going to go there with a tune-up that hopefully can can put us somewhere atop the leaderboard. The weather's not looking too good for Saturday this week, so it's another one of those deals where you're going to see some chess being played on Friday. I know what our plan is, but you're probably not going to see anybody go up there and try to hit a home run on Friday afternoon, because just like when we were in Indy, we went into E1 with one qualifying shot under our belt, and it completely shook the qualifying ladder up, or the E1 ladder up. I mean, across the board, Top Fuel, Funny Car, Pro Stock Motorcycle, us, everybody there were weird people all over the place, So it's going to be interesting, man. And I'm hopeful, but at the same time, trying to stay a little bit humble about it, because it is tough out here. And if you go up there shaking the big stick, sometimes it doesn't work out too well.
Well, I'm curious, kind of one last thing. This weekend, as you well know, we've discussed you're headed to NHRA Thunder Valley. We're headed to Bristol for the NHRA National event. But how about Donald Long, No Mercy 12 going on this weekend? You got PDRA going on this weekend. There's a lot of incredible drag racing happening. No Prep Kings, which you've won 2 small tire events this year in No Prep Kings competition. I mean, when you look around the sport, there's a lot of exciting things going on. What do you think will be the story coming out of No Mercy 12 this weekend? Earlier in the show, we talked about maybe this is Pro 275's weekend to kind of leapfrog officially Radio versus the World. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Pro 275 is going to do that anyway. I just unfortunately, because I love radial racing, it's where I came from. I'll always support it as long as it's around. But I think you're going to see some first time winners, especially in Radio versus the World. With PDRA running the World Finals, NHRA taking some of your front runners, away. No Prep Kings is going to have. I mean, between those 3 alone, like, some of the tuning talent is going to be off the property, so I think you're going to see some first time winners, or at least I hope so. Some of the names like Norman Bryson, they're due, and not because the competition is going to be less, but I just think it's his time, but for Pro 275, I think they may have double the cars that Radio versus the World does. And I agree. I think this may be one of those turning points in the long life that this radio racing has lived, where Pro 275 takes over, and I think more of your X275 and limited drag radio are going to be on the headline. It's going to be interesting. Probably a little bit weird, I guess. It's going to be really hard, especially for you guys to cover all this. Like,
oh man, we've got people headed every different direction. They're going to break me. I've got to pay for so many flights this week. It's unbelievable, man. But hey, Lyle, thank you so much. It was great to see you this past weekend. Great to spend a little bit of time with you through the week. Thank you for taking some time on your Wednesday afternoon to talk about your successes on the racetrack. I'm curious, can we get you locked in next Monday night to be part of the Drag Illustrated ride along as we take in No Prep Kings Season 4? Can we get you on the show Monday night?
Absolutely. And I hope that I'm sitting double fisting with one more of these guys beside me over here. And if that's the case, I may not look my best. I may have my best JT Sunday morning look on the show for the ride along. But yes, lock me in. I'm there.
Fantastic, man. Well, thank you so much. What a deal. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike, JT, everybody give it up for the man himself, Lyle Barnett. Woo! Yeah. Somebody's got to get me, JT, you got to get me I need like a drum roll thingy, or I need
we're going to have to get that. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to get it, man. Well, hey, Lyle, thanks for being here, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Lyle.